Sabrina. Hello. Welcome to the first lecture of Creativity in Event Management. And it's the first lecture. I think it has to start with the concept of creativity in general, and dive a little bit into it to discuss what is creativity, how to train it, if we can train it, how we can apply it in event management, and then slowly we can switch to the concept of event design, basically something that where creativity is essential and very needed. Of course, creativity is needed in every aspect of our work, in every aspect of event planning, management, and even risk calculations, and all of that creativity is necessary for approaching any work. But I think it's very essential to train as much as possible your creativity in event design, as basically we start from developing the concept and the very first stages of event planning. We need to discuss the aesthetics, the idea, the theme, the topic of the event. So of course we need to be creative in there. So let's start. First, let's discuss what skills are required in event management. We already mentioned that we do need to be creative, but of course, we also need to have management skills. We have to have problem-solving skills. We have to have planning skills, and communication skills and creativity basically can be applied again everywhere. And of course, we need to have creativity. So let's think, what is creativity? Let's discuss that. So basically, it's the ability to generate unique ideas, valuable ideas, solutions, expressions it needs to be able to jump outside of the box. It needs to be able to find similarities, associations, and unusual solutions, connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. Right. So is it something? Is it something that can be trained? Or are we basically some of the people have the talent? Or so on people. They don't have it. Of course, the people who are kind of naturally have this creative approach to work, and to solve the problems or coming up with the new ideas. But you can also train it to a certain degree. And let's see how we can do it and what it's necessary for that. We can start with this one, and later we will come back to the same topic, because I think it's important to study it a little bit more thoroughly. So we do need to have divergent thinking. What it means is to have multiple solutions to the same problem or to the same topic that we have. And then when you have with a wide range of ideas, you can at some point create some new ideas that is not conventional. Because the first couple of ideas is going to be something that your brain is trained to come up with. The most general ones, the most working ones, and then the more you think about this, the more unusual ideas you're going to come up with. And so that's why it's very important to just sit, think of the concept or of the idea, and then put down all the ways you can implement it.
Sabrina, so what else will we have in here? We have here open-mindedness, which is also a very important skill that you might have, and a very important skill that you can train. Actually, how we can train it, we can see the same topic or the same concept from different perspectives and be able to embrace all of those perspectives. Not trying not to see the world in black and white, but understand the shades as well. A very interesting task for doing that is actually come up with some sort of a problem. It can be a philosophical problem, an ethical problem, moral problem, and then try to pretend that you are a set of different people with set of different values and try to protect or argue against this problem or idea. Trying to pretend that you are this person with completely different opinion and see how it works. That's one of the ways. What else can help with open-mindedness is basically learning, constant reading, constant. We're going to talk a little bit later about being well-watched, and also you can be well-read. The more knowledge you have, the easier for you is to understand things from different perspectives, and to see how multi-layered things are, and to dive into basically describe and think of things on a deeper level. And of course, how we can learn new things. We need to be very curious and explorative, right? So if you train your curiosity, if sometimes of course you need to work on it, sometimes you have to force yourself to sit down and get inspired, read something, look at something, watch something, think about something. But at some point it becomes a habit, right? So you need to learn how to be curious and explorative. And whenever you see the results, of course it becomes like a very nice habit because you're going to enjoy it. Overcoming fear of failure. It's also a very important skill because sometimes we have this problem of the white paper, right? And when you don't know how to start, and normally we are very afraid to start because we are very afraid to fail. It's okay to have many drafts, many ideas, like put down many ideas, even if they are very silly ones. but still like to put them down and not being afraid to look stupid sometimes. Same. We're going to talk about this on the second lecture while the brainstorming as well. It's okay to suggest the silliest solutions and the silliest ideas, and you need to be patient to other people's ideas just because even starting to deconstruct or debate them, you can also come up with something new, cool, and interesting, right? Collaborative thinking. Basically, again, brainstorming. You can help each other with developing the idea. You can help each other while debating the idea. In deconstructing the idea again, it's going to help to narrow down the ideas that you have. And, of course, it also means that you need to be we're going to talk about this later. Sabrina, you need to be very tolerant to criticism and tolerant to debating because again, in debating what we have in the end is some of the best idea that fits everyone's understandings and mindsets. It's you should be trained to discuss and negotiate and defend your ideas, and also that thing you can train during the brainstorming. Mindfulness and observation. Again, we need to think a lot. We need to be very present in the moment, and we need to evaluate and think about what we just saw, what we just heard, etc. I would like to touch this interesting topic, and of course we don't have time to discuss it thoroughly, unfortunately. But that's some food for thought for you after the lecture. Many times when I was talking with creative people, and many times even myself before I was creating. In my case, it was art. Other people, it was like some creative jobs, but they came up from an unhealthy field of overthinking. What I mean by overthinking is that creative job or creative ideas or creative processes derived from a sense of self-therapy, so to say. So basically, they were overthinking about the past or about the future. They had so many thoughts, so many fears, and they needed to get rid of them. So that's how they produced art or creative works. It's unhealthy too. It's a tool, but it's an unhealthy tool. And the more you work about your self-esteem or understanding where it comes from or learning how to be present in the moment, you can actually get inspiration not from some damaging coping strategies, but from real life, right? So again, you can, like many people, are creative while they are overthinking. They are very worried, they're very stressed, and they need to unleash it somehow. Of course, like it's a very safe way to unleash them for creativity. But again, we can be better than that, at least in my perspective. So feel free to debate and argue. With that, so we had this task once when I used to study creativity, and our teacher asked us, okay, who do you think are the most creative people and why? I can give you like 1 minute to think. And then I can give you the answer we got. And the answer I still think is one of the brightest ones. And then again, debate me if you like. I will try to defend this house. So let's have 1 minute for you to think. Okay, probably it's less than 1 minute, but I just don't have the patience. So the answer my professor came up with, and the answer basically agreed with very much was, the most creative people are the kids, the children. Why so? Because they do not have straight answers for their questions. So they need to look for them, and they need to come up with completely random connections between the knowledge they have. And sometimes it works in mysterious way, in very funny ways. So basically because they just don't have the arsenal of answers and the arsenal of tool.
Sabrina. And then I can give you the answer we thought. And the answer, I still think, is one of the brightest ones. And then again, debate me if you like. I will try to defend this house. So let's have 1 minute for you to think. Okay, probably it's less than 1 minute, but I just don't have the patience. So the answer my professor came up with, and the answer basically agreed with very much was, the most creative people are the kids, the children. Why so? Because they do not have straight answers for their questions. So they need to look for them. And they need to come up with completely random connections between the knowledge they have. And sometimes it works in a mysterious way, in very funny ways. So basically, yeah. Because they just don't have the arsenal answers and the arsenal of tools applied to. Like, they don't have logical thinking. They don't have things like this. Basically, they have a clear mind. And of course, they can connect things that seem to be unconnected. So for an adult brain, and that's also a skill that you can learn. One of the skills you can learn. And that's one of the approaches that creative people use. We try to forget everything they know and find some new neural connections in our brains. Try to connect the seemingly unrelated things. Yeah. That's why whenever you see kids drawing, you're like, what is this? Because again, when you're an adult, you have already so many images in your head. So it's very hard to come up with something new because first, your brain is boring. Boring. Your brain is lazy. So for a brain to come up with something new first, it's not necessary. Like, why would I do that if I already have so many answers? And why would I spend the energy? The kid doesn't have this problem. So I do have to come up with something new. So it's one of the ways to come up with some creative. One of the ways is the opposite. One, you have so many things to merge and to combine. And you know so many things and, so many techniques that mixing all of them or some of them, it also can come up in some unexpected results, right? So, again, you can see the approaches are completely different, and you can try all of them. Okay. The question I have, for you and for myself, actually, as well, because there is no clear answer to that, because we don't know. There is always, should be a balance, and it's very hard to understand where the balance is, and it's very hard to understand where the limitations are, fruitful for your creativity, and where limitations are basically killing it, right? So let's focus on the pros first, and think how it can enhance your creativity, how it can help it. So basically, what limitations help with is, it helps you to focus, and it helps you to be more clear about what result you can get, at least. And whenever you know what you can have, at least it's easier to, again.
It can force you to experiment. Also a nice thing to do and to have, again, innovation through constraints. Again, whenever we are limited, we have to come up with some unusual, unexpected solutions. Yeah. For example, if you have limitation in material or in space or functionality, you need to come up with some ideas how to fix it somehow, or how to avoid it somehow. Avoid the problems or those limitations. Again, what else do we have in problem solving? Again, also having limitations forces you to think of how to make things work. Right. And resourcefulness. Again, you have some sort of restrictions, and you need to come up with the tools you have that can help you with that. Okay, so let's talk about where we can look for inspirations, right? Again, we talked already about the ways we can train our creativity. So basically training, creativity, and looking for inspiration, because inspiration is a very vague term. Some people call it a muse, some people call it basically activities on creativity. It depends how you look at things. Right. So again, how we can inspire you might be inspired by something, just looking at something, and it triggered your memory or something. And now you can create, or is the inspiration basically the fact that you have lots of tools in your arsenal and lots of knowledge in your arsenal. And whenever people ask you, okay, come up with something, you can easily deliver it just because you have the capacity of doing that, not just because you wait for some sort of a magical, enlightening. Okay, so learn through collaboration. We're already discussed brainstorming. Brainstorming is a part of the way of collaborating, right? Also, as a collaboration, you can collaborate with other creative people because maybe you have something they don't have, or they have something you don't have, and you can be mutually fruitful in this sense. Yes, mutually beneficial, for example. Or if you are very good at creative writing and another person is very good at visual arts, or just some sort of a visual production, you can collaborate, and you can come up with a very unique and beautiful product that separately you wouldn't be able to make, right? So it's very important to collaborate with different people, to learn from them, to get inspired by them, to get ideas from them, to get the feedback from them. We're going to talk about feedback also a little bit later. And yes, but of course, choose your collaborators very carefully, because otherwise it might be very draining or not beneficial for you. If you, for example, are better than the person who you're collaborating with, you will not learn. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.